you. Is he going to be there?
I don't know. Because I got a...
I don't know.
I don't know.
Let's
What is
see.
that? Like a quiche?
Uh-huh. I got James 2 by accident. You want one?
Yeah, you want one of these?
No.
How smart! I'd make a bunch of those and that'll be breakfast.
I know, it is. Hey,
Yeah.
did you make these?
No.
Oh, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Thinking I should though.
Freeze those.
Mm-hmm.
Microwave them?
Yeah.
If they even made it to the freezer.
I make like the egg McMuffins or whatever at home and freeze them or try it.
Ah, that's a good idea.
Try to shake it up because if nothing, you would just want waffles and pancakes every morning.
Yeah.
You can go make it all.
Oh, thank you.
Anybody else need
I do.
questions? Well, I'm out, so y'all don't have to share.
No.
Nope. Now, do we technically start at 10 or 10:05? I know.
10 or 10.
Whenever you say so.
Whenever you say, drill sergeant. Well, we'll give it a minute or two and then we'll swing into it. Man, we were busting at the seams last week. Guess we scared them all away.
Where's your little young gal?
She's alternating between new members class and this one.
Oh.
Because her, Wendy and her dad, John,
Oh,
are
yeah,
doing the new
yeah.
members class. So
Okay. I don't know where Mary is this morning. It's not like her not to
Be here.
Huh. Maybe she's not feeling well.
I don't know.
Well, I guess we can get started. And some other folks can come on in as they come. All right. Do I have a volunteer that would not mind praying us in this morning?
Sounds like a good job for you, honey.
Of course. I'm gonna
I'll second that.
I'm gonna send you away.
You do so well. You're so eloquent.
Oh,
I know, it really is.
All right. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the wonderful day and beautiful day you've given us. And we ask that you just be with us in this time where we get to study your word. Help us learn it correctly and help us take it in and change our hearts through your word so that we come to love you more. All this we ask in Jesus' holy and precious name. Amen. All right. Okay, well, it has us starting off today with our basic kind of get-going question. Can you recall a time when you were surrounded by darkness that was either unexpected or complete? How did you react?
Total darkness.
Total darkness.
Yeah, in a cave somewhere up on close to Beach Mountain. Linville Cavern?
Oh, yeah, Linville Cavern. They turn the light
They
off.
turn the lights out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Total dark.
It is, even though you're completely aware of where you were standing and you're not moving.
Mm-hmm.
It is very frightening.
Yes.
For a moment, you panic.
Yeah, you're right. It was.
Have you been?
Yes.
You know,
It had never been that
Like the
dark.
walls are
I never did think about that. Right. 'Cause
Yeah.
that, there is a sort of difference, like when you're on your own house and your lights go out.
Yeah.
Some kind of light.
Something.
familiar.
Mhm.
You can kind of
Right. But that is
I remember I was visiting somebody and staying in a room downstairs and it didn't have any windows. Turned the lights off and it's pitch black. I remember getting up the next morning. I walked straight into the wall. 'Cause, I didn't know where the lamp was. I didn't know where anything was. Just because you're visiting there, you don't know where anything is. So I kind of walked into the wall. A little bit disorienting, like you say. All right. In Judges 6, 1-6, the Israelites are living in dark times, literally and spiritually. And how does God chastise Israel for doing evil? What effect does this have? And I'll start us off. I'll read Judges 6, 1-6, and then we can talk through it. The people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord gave them into the hand of Midian 7 years. And the hand of Midian overpowered Israel, and because of Midian, the people of Israel made for themselves the dens that are in the mountains and the caves and the strongholds. For whenever the Israelites planted crops, the Midianites and the Amalekites and the people of the east would come up against them. They would encamp against them and devour the produce of the land as far as Gaza. and leave no sustenance in Israel, in no sheep or ox or donkey. For they would come up with their livestock and their tents, and they would come like locusts in number. Both they and their camels could not be counted, so that they laid waste the land as they came in. And Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the people of Israel cried out for help to the Lord. Okay, so how does God chastise or punish or discipline Israel for doing evil?
He sends the Mennonites in to destroy everything, their crops, their any kind of food source,
Yep.
make them impossible.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just anything that was out there, they would just come in and said like locusts and just devour everything. I try to kind of think to myself what that kind of fear would be like, to sit there and think, well, I mean, if these people come, we're going to literally have nothing to live on. Thank goodness we've never had to experience anything like that, but I think that would be pretty frightening. And I think it is important, though, to remember what God is doing here. And we see that from last week and the week before that even. Why is God doing this?
Because they are worshiping other gods.
Yeah, they're worshiping.
Baal.
Yeah, they're engaging in Baal worship and
What's the name?
What?
What's the other tower? The other statue?
Are you talking about the Ashtaroth
Yeah.
and all that? Yeah, all those different pagan gods of the people around them. They were worshiping them, and it's important to know. And this is actually it's a very biblical principle. We see it all throughout the Old Testament, and then we see it again in the New Testament. This idea of discipline. And when it comes when you're a child of God, when you belong to the family of God, you are engaged in discipline. What would we say discipline is? When we say the word discipline, what are we talking about?
Controlling yourself.
All right, controlling yourself, maybe. What else?
Practicing.
Resisting, even though there's a stronger force or whatever it is, resisting that force to do the right thing or
Okay.
the other.
Okay. And discipline's an important concept all throughout the Bible. And the idea being, it's the discipline of a father to their child. And that's the way God is with us. And that's the way he is here with Israel. What is he doing? He's not just trying to punish them, because there's a big difference between discipline and punishment. Punishment is, I'm so mad at you, I want to pour my anger out on you and basically destroy you. That's punishment. But there's a huge difference between punishment and discipline. The idea behind discipline is to change behavior, to teach. That's what discipline's about. And that's what God does to Israel. It shows every time. And they cry out to the Lord. What does he do? He sends somebody else. He saves them. But then every time they fall back, he disciplines. And it tells us that in the book of Proverbs. And then it's brought up again in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verses 5 through 6. Don't despise the discipline of the Lord, because he disciplines those he loves. Like, that's why he disciplines you. Not because he's mad at you and wants to pour out his wrath on you. That's different. He wants you to change your behavior. He wants to teach you. And that's what God's doing here. Can you think of a time when you were disciplined by your parents, or you had to discipline your kids, and it was not...
About this morning.
A second ago.
Well, and it wasn't pleasant. I mean, think of a time in your own life when your parents, now looking back, they did something to discipline you. I mean, you didn't even see it that way. You're just, why are you being so mean? God, I hate you, or whatever. And then now that you're older and you look back, you realize just how important that discipline was and how loving that discipline
It would
was.
be easier not to, maybe.
I've never said that. Do you think I'm punishing you because I am enjoying this?
Right.
It's not fun.
I need to teach you.
Mhm.
Those are words I actually say.
Mm-hmm.
Job.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to remember that God uses discipline. He disciplines us every day sometimes. Trust me. I mean, I look at things in my life and I'm like, yeah, okay, Lord. Yeah, okay, I got you. Sometimes it takes a little more discipline. But it's really important because he's always doing it because he cares. All right. Read Judges 6:11 through 24. How does the angel of the Lord describe Gideon compared to Gideon's description of himself? Do I have a volunteer for Judges 6:11 through 24?
I'll do it right here.
Okay, thanks, babe.
The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah
Mm-hmm.
that belonged to Josh, and in the A word, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a wine press to keep it from the Mennonites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." "Pardon me, my lord," Gideon replied, "but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, 'Did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian." Did I read too far? Through 24. Okay.
24, yeah.
The Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" "Pardon me, my lord," Gideon replied, "but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in
Manasseh.
thanks, and I'm the least in my family." The Lord answered, "I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive." Gideon replied, "If now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you." The Lord said, "I will wait until you return." Gideon went inside, prepared a young goat, and from an ephah of flour he made bread without yeast. Putting the meat in a basket and its broth in a pot, he brought them out and offered them to him under the oak. The angel of God said to him, "Take the meat and unleavened bread, place them on this rock, and pour out the broth." And Gideon did so. The angel of the Lord touched the meat and the unleavened bread with the tip of the staff that was in his hand. Fire flared from the rock, consuming the meat and the bread, and the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he exclaimed, "Alas, sovereign Lord, I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." But the Lord said to him, "Peace, do not be afraid, you are not going to die." So Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and called it, "The Lord is Peace." To this day it stands in Ophrah of the Abiezrites.
All right, thank you. Okay, so when the angel of God shows up and talks to Gideon, and let's set the stage a little bit. Did anybody pick out what is Gideon doing when the angel shows up?
Hiding his food from the Mennonites.
Yeah, he is literally in a wine press, threshing his wheat in a wine press so that he can keep it from the Midianites. He's afraid of the Midianites. He's going to come and steal everything he's got, which, I mean, makes sense, being that they come and steal everything the Israelites have. And so he's like hiding in a wine press, and he's, threshing his wheat and trying to keep it. And then here comes this angel. And the angel, how does the angel describe him?
A warrior?
Yeah, mighty warrior.
Yeah.
And in my translation, the ESV, it says, "O mighty man of valor,"
Yeah.
is how it describes Gideon. Gideon's like, what? Seriously? I mean, he's like cowering in a wine press trying to keep his food. And here comes this angel and says, no, you got this. Yeah, mighty man of valor. And then how does Gideon describe himself?
The least in his family.
Say, whoa, what? You want to say? No, hold on. I come from the smallest clan in the entire nation of Israel, from the smallest family, and I'm the youngest, the weakest, the smallest in that clan. And you're calling me mighty man of valor, and you want me to go out and strike the Midianites down? Are you crazy? The angel is coming to Gideon with something that's literally just, he's like, are you out of your mind? And isn't it just like God to do that? One, he is telling Gideon something that it just makes zero sense to him. It's like, how can you do that? I am completely incapable of doing this. Which kind of makes sense, being that everything else we've seen in the past couple of weeks, God is consistently showing up to do something absolutely impossible for the people of Israel. And what was the point of him doing those things? When he stops the flow of the Jordan, and when he calls Barak out and destroys, Sisera and all of that. What is God consistently doing for the people of Israel when he shows up and does things that make no logical sense?
He's saving them, and he's showing them who is powerful.
Right.
And it's God.
Right. He's consistently trying to show them, look, excuse me, how many times do I have to show you the exact same thing? Not only that, when Gideon's talking about this, he's, well, how can this be? Where is God, basically? I mean, he's like, why has he abandoned us? I mean, where is God in all of this? And it is just like God all the time to take a person, and we see it consistently in Scripture, that he takes people that wouldn't in and of themselves be able to do something, and because they're unable to, who gets the glory in the end? God gets the glory because he took somebody that should not be able to do any of this, and he does something miraculous. I always like to say God always uses the useless because that magnifies his own power and his strength. He even says that again when he's talking to the Apostle Paul, and Paul's asking him to take the thorn in his flesh away and to do all of that. And he says, no, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in your weakness. And I mean, I don't want to sit there and say, well, then now it's everybody's destiny to be a Gideon and to go and do awesome stuff for God. I mean, that's not necessarily the case. But what does it tell us about ourselves when God asks us to do something?
He will give us the ability, the strength, whatever it is that we need to accomplish.
Yeah.
What he needs to have done, whether it's through time, through knowledge, whatever. All of the above.
Yeah, I mean, he does. He will show up. If you're doing something that he wants you to do, that you're called by God to do, it will work. In one way or the other. It might not work the way you want it to work. It might not work the way you think it's going to work. And you might not even get to see the results of it, but he promises that he is going to do what he says he's going to do. Like I said, it doesn't mean we're all going to be, awesome and powerful, and we're all going to be, wonderful, awesome leaders. That's not true. But he will show up, especially when we think we're unable to do something. That's his favorite time to show up, because when it's the guy that can't do that, and then they all of a sudden do it, it's not because of anything that's in them. It's who's working through them. All right, so read Judges 6:25 through 32. 6:25 through 32. Do I have a volunteer for that?
It's really hard for me to.
Oh, that's right. You got the King
In
James,
this
right?
one, I actually had to pick up Trey's Bible.
It's all right.
So
I'll read it.
I'll
Okay,
read
hang
it.
on. All right, here it is. It starts way at the top.
All right, 3:32. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That same night, the Lord said to him, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper kind of altar to the Lord your God on top of this height. Using the wood of the Asherah pole that you cut down, offer the second bull as your burnt offering." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid of his family and the townspeople, he did it at night rather than in the daytime. In the morning, when the people of the town got up, there was Baal's altar demolished with the Asherah pole beside it cut down, and the second bull sacrificed on the newly built altar. They asked each other, "Who did this?" When they carefully investigated, they were told, "Gideon, son of Joash did it. The people of the town demanded of Joash, "Bring out your son. He must die because he has broken down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside it." Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, "Are you going to plead Baal's cause? Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him shall be put to death by morning. If Baal really is a god, he can defend himself when someone breaks down his altar." So because Gideon broke down Baal's altar, they gave him the name Jerub-Baal that day, saying, "Let Baal contend with him." Is that it?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so God asked Gideon to do something. Before he even talks about going to go fight the Midianites, which is what he kind of opened with, well, you're going to go fight the Midianites. What? Before he even does that, what's his first mission for Gideon?
To destroy the altar.
All right, destroy this altar for Baal and the Asherah pole beside it, and you're going to now construct the right kind of altar that your people were instructed by me to build in the first place, and that's what you're going to do. That's the first thing you're going to do. Before we get into the people's response, anybody notice how Gideon does this?
Did it at night.
He's like, "Oh, really, God? You want me to do that?" It's like he kind of got over the fact, oh my gosh, it's the angel of the Lord. So, okay, he got convinced that it was the angel of the Lord. So, okay, I can do this. But then he starts thinking, oh, wait a minute. He was scared of his family, so he did it in the middle of the night. He was scared. Like, this guy is needing some affirmation here, like, over again. But he does it. And what was the people's response to him?
They wanted to kill him.
Yeah, they're like, okay, Joash, bring your son out because he needs to die for this. So what does that, with this second part of the question, what does that tell us about the state of Israel's faith at this point?
Oh,
They were worshiping a false god.
yeah.
Yeah, they weren't just worshiping a false god a little bit like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll play some lip service here. Oh, yeah, Baal, yeah, Baal's awesome, whatever. No, they were so lock, stock, and barrel sold out to idolatry that they were literally taking it so seriously that they were going to do to Gideon for worshiping the true God what the true God would have had them do to them for worshiping Baal in the first place. Like, they were so sold out to idolatry that they were going to put him to death for it. So, I mean, that's commitment. So they were committed to destroying Gideon for that, and they were committed to idolatry. Now, how do the words of Gideon's father, how do you think it sets up the rest of the story here? And Gideon's father said, no, you're not going to do that. Because if Baal is God, what can Baal do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said he could defend himself. His God, if he was God, he could defend himself.
Yeah, kind of basically saying, look, well, if Baal really is God here, Baal will take care of the business. You don't need to do that, which I find really interesting. Because whose altar to Baal and Asherah pole was it that Gideon destroyed? Did you see it at the beginning?
Amen.
It was his family set it up, right?
Yeah. It was his father's.
Yeah.
So it was his father's altar and Asherah pole that Gideon actually destroyed. So it's like his father's like, well, okay, I know I've kind of sold myself out to idolatry here, but, well, I guess if he really is God, then he's going to be the one to show up and do something about it.
Perhaps the fact that his father knew, back then nobody of the lower would tend to want to question anything or move forward. Surely something my son is doing is driving him, because he would never be in the lower of the entire, community and the tribe and the family. So he must come from something. So let's at least humor him and question. I mean, okay, if there is another God, if these are true gods, then they'll do. But if not, it's proof that, Gideon is being driven by God, and, so he even, maybe it was a question to himself.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point because Gideon himself is saying, look, I'm the least in my father's house. That would have been incredibly bold for one of the youngest people in the family to do something like that. That would have been ridiculously bold. It's like, whoa, you don't do that. So maybe just that action, that useless quote unquote person that God has decided to use is just, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? And helped his father question maybe, okay, maybe there's something to this. And it does set it up. So is Baal God or is God God? And that really does kind of set up the rest of the story in a sense. All right. So the next one is Judges 33, 7 through 7:18. What is God teaching Gideon through everything that happens in these verses, and how does Gideon respond? All right, this is. So I will do you guys a favor, and I'll just read it, and that way we'll just be done, and we can move on to these other pieces here. Okay, now we're picking up where the story left off. Now all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the people of the east came together, and they crossed the Jordan and encamped in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon, and he sounded the trumpet, and the Abirizites were called out to follow him. And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, and they too were called out to follow him. And he sent messengers to Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, and they went up to meet them. Then Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, behold, I am laying a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. There is dew on the fleece alone, and it is dry on all the ground. Then I shall know that you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said. And it was so. When he rose early the next morning and squeezed the fleece, he wrung enough dew from the fleece to fill a bowl with water. Then Gideon said to God, let not your anger burn against me. Let me speak just once more. Please let me test just once more with the fleece. Please let it be dry on the fleece only, and on all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, and it was dry on the fleece only, and on all the ground there was dew. Then Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the people who were with him rose early and encamped beside the spring of Harod. And the camp of Midian was north of them, by the hill of Moreh in the valley. The Lord said to Gideon, the people with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hand, lest Israel boast over me, saying, my own hand has saved me. Now therefore proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return home and hurry away from Mount Gilead. Then 22,000 of the people returned, and 10,000 remained. And the Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many. Take them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. And anyone of whom I say to you, this one shall go with you, shall go with you. And anyone whom I say to you, this one shall not go with you, shall not go. So he brought the people down to the water. And the Lord said to Gideon, everyone who laps the water with his tongue as a dog laps, you shall set by himself. Likewise, everyone who kneels down to drink. And the number of those who lapped, putting their hands to their mouths, was 300 men. But all the rest of the people knelt down to drink water. And the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men who lapped, I will save you, and give the Midianites into your hand. And let all the others go every man to his home. So the people took provisions in their hands and their trumpets. And he set all the rest of Israel, every man to his tent, but retained the 300 men. And the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. That same night the Lord said to him, arise, go down against the camp, for I have given it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down to the camp with Purah your servant, and you shall hear what they say, and afterward your hand shall be strengthened to go down against the camp. Then he went down with Purah his servant to the outposts of the armed men who were in the camp. And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the people of the east lay along the valley like locusts in abundance, and their camels were without number, as the sand that is on the seashore in abundance. When Gideon came, behold, a man was telling a dream to his comrade, and he said, behold, I dreamed a dream, and behold, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, and came to the tent, and struck it, so that it fell and turned it upside down, so that the tent lay flat. And his comrade answered, this is no other than the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. God has given into his hand Midian and all the camp. As soon as Gideon heard the telling of the dream and its interpretation, he worshipped. And he returned to the camp of Israel and said, arise, for the Lord has given the host of Midian into your hand. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put trumpets into the hands of all of them, and empty jars with torches inside the jars. And he said to them, look at me and do likewise. When I come to the outskirts of the camp, do as I do. When I blow the trumpet, and I and all who are with me then blow the trumpets, so on every side of the camp, and shout, for the Lord and for Gideon. Boy, that's a huge piece there. Okay. So let's look at Gideon again. So he says, okay, we got this. All right, God's told him to go, and he's going to defeat the Midianites. And he went, and he's pumped. All right, I'm going to get all my men from Israel. And they went out, and they gathered this army of at least 32,000 people. And they're going to go, and they're going to fight the Midianites. And before he goes to fight the Midianites, what does Gideon do?
He wants more proof.
Yeah.
He wants more proof that he's going to win.
Yeah.
Well, just to make sure.
Yeah. I know you told me that you got this and I'm going to win. But, okay, one more time. One more. I'm going to take this fleece, and if you make it wet and everything else dry, then it's got to be you. So he does it. God does it. Gideon's like, yeah, I know. I mean, that could have just been a fluke. So, God, okay, don't get mad at me, but can you do one more thing for me, God? And he does it again. It's how many times does Gideon have to be told the same thing and shown again and again and again that God's actually going to do what he said he's going to do? Through all this, what is God teaching Gideon? Trust
You asked
me.
shall we see?
Like, dude, trust me. I am the God of the universe. Don't you think I can pull this off? Gideon just needs to be told again and again and again. Now, and then of course now, how does Gideon respond? But before we do that, let's take a second here. How are you like Gideon?
Every day, don't we ask for some kind of proof? I mean, we say, I had this little thing taped up in my office one day, and it said that, all things are possible with faith. I mean, if you lack the faith, you're not believing that God's going to be there. If we can't go full force into our day and the things that we do, and you worry, worry is not having faith. If you worry about something that's going to happen, and I am the biggest worry. I worry about everything. And I have to step back on, if I'm worrying, I'm not thinking that God's going to handle this.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Where there's worry, there is not faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to tape it in front of me because all day long, we worry about, our family, and we worry about, finances, and we worry about just things that are happening in the future, and we'll tell you all the time. Can you take care of it right this second? It'll be like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I just can't let it go. And he's like, well, can you do about it right now? I'm like, well, nothing. He's like, well, then just let it be. Go to sleep and let it be. Take care of it when you can. I mean, we need to just have faith even when it doesn't look like we're going to be able to go.
And the thing that's great is Gideon says to God, I know what you've told me. But then he keeps needing more reassurance. I mean, God tells us everything we need to know in his word. Everything. Like, if he hasn't told us in his word, we don't need to know it. Now, we might want to know more. Like, I would love to know all of the exact details of every little bit and piece of everything that's going to happen. But guess what? He didn't give me that. Everything we need, like I said, very different than what we want. Everything we need is right there in his word. And how many times do we have to be told again and again and again? Just trust what I've told you. It's all right here. It's like literally, it's right there. I bet you got multiple copies in your house. How many times? Come on, just trust me here. And it is hard because who do we ultimately really want to trust with everything?
Ourselves.
Us. I want to be in control because if I'm in control, then I know exactly what's going on and I can trust that. But in the end, are any of us ultimately in control? No, we fool ourselves into thinking we are, but we're not. And the more we try to be, the worse it gets because we just screw it up.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
And listening to Caleb, I often hear, what has God done for you?
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to say, well, what hasn't he done for you? And sometimes it's the smallest little things that you might have heard this story before. But like, I don't know how long ago, but it was one morning we were having a really rough morning, trying to get here. Everything was falling apart. I mean, we were gonna be late, and I was like, we are going to church,
Mhm.
and we're a good. I'm gonna say, depending how fast you are, 12 to 15 minutes to get here.
Mhm.
5 minutes. Church was gonna start in 5 minutes, so we're late. And I just said, I couldn't even look at the clock. I was so mad, but we were going to church.
Mhm.
I don't know how. I do not know how. But we walked in as church started.
Mhm.
And because all I kept saying is, I just want to be there. Lord, I just want to get to church. And we got here. And we got here on time. Now, how does that happen? How does that happen when I know that Will wasn't driving 80 miles an hour?
Yeah.
We live 12 minutes away, but I only had 5 minutes before. And I just thought, it's the smallest things,
Mhm.
that you think back, when you finally look back in your life. Sometimes you ask for things, or the things that you worried about, but he changed his course, and you're like, oh, that makes sense now, why that happened that way.
Mhm. Yeah.
We have to remind ourselves that
Mhm.
this is going to be one of those things.
All right, but the last bit we need to read, and just for time's sake, I'll go ahead and read it because I like to get to the last two questions. So Gideon and the 100 men who were with him came to the outskirts of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, when they had just set the watch, and they blew the trumpets and smashed the jars that were in their hands. Then the 3 companies blew the trumpets and broke the jars. They held in their left hands the torches, and in their right hands the trumpets to blow. And they cried out, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon!" Every man stood in his place around the camp. And all the army ran. They cried out and fled. When they blew the 300 trumpets, the Lord set every man's sword against his comrade and against all the army. And the army fled as far as Shittah towards Zereah, as far as the border of Ebo Meholah by Tabbath. And the men of Israel were called out from Naphtali and from Asher and from all Manasseh, and they pursued after Midian. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, "Come down against the Midianites and capture the waters against them as far as Beth-barah and also the Jordan." And it worked. They did it. And they killed the 2 princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeb, and the victory was given to the Israelites. So, what part did Gideon and Israel's soldiers play in this victory? Overall,
Thought they didn't really ever fight, did they? They just blew their trumpets and the army ran away.
not until the very end.
Okay.
At the very beginning, all they did, they smashed the jars, they blew the trumpets, they had the torches. And it said they stood there. They just stood there, and what happened in the camp, in the Midianite camp?
They start fighting each other.
They started killing each other. They were like so freaked out. They were in the second watch. It's going to be in the middle of the night. So it's dark out.
Mhm.
They hear these loud blow of the shofar trumpets and a shout from the army, and they just get up, and they're so disoriented that they literally start slaughtering each other.
So they killed their own
They
princes?
start killing their own people. No, not the princes. They started killing each other in camp. Then they fled. Then what do the Israelites do? Then the Israelites follow and push them out and kill the princes of Midian. So they kind of like sweep up. It's the mop-up operation. God did all the hard stuff, and then they come and do the mop-up and get the victory. He's the one that starts it all. And this goes into question 7. God defeated the Midianites using only a loud sound and a flash of light in the darkness. How did the darkness contribute to the Midianites' defeat? It led them to be what? Yeah, they didn't know what the heck was going on.
Right.
They couldn't see anything. They just heard this. And then, somebody must be here. They're killing each other. They literally had no idea what was going on. They're confused. They're so confused. They're seeking the wrong solution to the problem. Like the Israelites were around the camp. They thought they were in the midst of the camp. They're killing each other. They're seeking the wrong solution to their very big problem. And it just blows up in their face. So here's the follow-up. How does sin affect us the same way? Especially think about, I know we're in a Lutheran church, and you can't say certain things, but I'll say it.
Go ahead.
Let me just put it this way. Before Jesus got a hold of you, how was sin doing the exact same thing to you.
Lead you through. It's a false sense of security. Like you're
Mhm.
walking, like when you wake up middle of the night and it's dark out, you think you might know your house, you might how long you live there, but I've been into a few walls,
Mhm.
not turning on a light. I mean, it kind of leaves. I mean, it leaves you clueless, like it did for the rest of them. I guess being in there, just. I don't know.
I mean-
how
I mean-
to describe it.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Do you ever think when you look back, I mean, we're doing the same thing. Not only were we confused, we were so blind in our sin. Our sin so blinded us to the truth. We didn't even know we were about to walk off a cliff. Like, we had no idea. It's like we're just walking along, having a good old time, doing whatever we wanted to do. And because we were in control of everything, and that's awesome, we didn't even know we were lost.
Sometimes we enjoy sin.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. We didn't even know we were lost. I mean, I'll tell you, I was exactly that way. I was looking for loopholes. Oh, I didn't see it say this in the Bible, therefore this is cool. No, it's not. No, it's not. I was king of doing that. I didn't even know I was lost until Jesus basically smacked me around and was like, "Excuse me, let me introduce you to the real situation." And then you're like, "Oh my goodness!" Like, you don't even know you're lost. Just like they didn't even know they were killing each other, but they were. We're doing the exact same thing. It blinds us to the fact that we're lost. We don't even know we're basically walking dead until God wakes us up and says, "You are dead. You're a dead man. And it's only me that can give you new life and wake you up and change your life and change your heart with the power of the Holy Spirit." So this brings us to question 8. In John 8, chapter 8, verse 12, Jesus says, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." And how does Jesus conquer the darkness of sin?
With faith.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
you have to have faith.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he dies to conquer the power of sin. And then I do like to say through faith, because who was it that gave us our faith to begin with? God gave us the faith to even believe in Jesus to begin with. We were so lost in our lostness, we didn't even want anything to do with God. We thought we did. Oh, I thought I did. Oh, I didn't. I did not. I wanted nothing to do with God. I wanted everything to do with James and what James wanted to do, but I wanted nothing to do with truly belonging to God. Until he smacks you around a little bit. The next thing you know, it really changes who you are. And it says, read John chapter 12, 35 and 36. It's not going to swap here. We're almost done. Let me get here. I know I should have marked it. John 12, 35, 36. Oh no, I gotta keep hitting it here.
I've got it.
Oh, read it for me, honey.
Wait a minute. 35 and 36.
Mm-hmm.
Then Jesus told them, "You are going to have the light just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, before darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where they are going. Believe in the light while you have the light, so that you may become children of the light." When he had finished speaking, Jesus left and hid himself from them.
All right. What do you think it means to be sons or children of the light?
Well, Jesus says he's the light of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have the Holy Trinity, 3 in 1, so we would be the sons and daughters of the light.
Yeah, we are, and Scripture tells us
All peoples.
we are literally siblings of Jesus. And the only reason we're siblings of Jesus is who's our daddy now? The Father, God the Father, has literally adopted us. We are His. We are children of the light. And if you walk in the light, this is an important point too, and it's not in here, but if you want to make a note of it, John 14, 15 through 24, where Jesus talks about what happens if you love me. Does anybody know when Jesus is telling his disciples, if you love me, what are you going to do? And I'm just kind of putting you on the spot without reading it here. He says, you will do what I say. If you love me, you will follow my commands. If you don't love me, you won't follow my commands. I mean, so this idea of walking as children of light, it is walking in the confidence that God is our Father, Christ is our brother, and he's never letting us go. But in walking as children of light, there's a bit of a responsibility there to be the people that Jesus would have us to be and be obedient to his word. And the kids coming out tells
Yes,
us
they're
we are
done.
out of time. Would anyone like to close this quickly in prayer? Not me.
Do it, honey.
Oh. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you so much for the opportunity to come together. We ask that learning more about you strengthens us in our faith and our love of you and help us be lights in the world. All this we ask in Jesus' holy and precious name. Amen.
I mean,
Let's see if this recorded. I think it did. I think it did.
It's not the King James version.
My app has several versions.
You did the U version?
This is
that's
it.
the one I have.
This was NIV.
Okay.
That's the one that was
See, it says so NIV is the one you.
That's
did.
the one I was reading from.
Is that the one James is reading?
I'm reading from the ESV, the English Standard Version.
both of them are much easier to read than thus. I had to, like I said, I read through this.
I like how you
I
can
was-
change the versions on this.
Mhm.
The U version app. That's pretty.
I know,
cool.
I like it too. I like how you can
Nice.
Change it
That's
up.
the same one, yeah. That's what we have to.
It looks like
Trey
both
is-
of them worked.
Trey's is the NIV.
Yes.
So after I read that, then I gonna pick his up because you know
Mhm.
he's 9.